We have Mr. Robert Pearson from Accessible Media Incorporated here from Canada that will talk us about describe video best practices, artistic and technical guidelines. Okay. And please introduce yourself about your background. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Robert Pearson. I'm the director of accessible digital media with the organization called Accessible Media Inc., otherwise known as AMI. We operate a few different broadcast services. One of them is AMI TV, which is a fully described, fully captioned television network, as well as AMI Audio, which is a service similar in nature to Le Magnetic Tique, which is a service here in Quebec. In addition to that, we are also going to be launching a new service in the near future called AMI Télé, which is a fully captioned, fully described, fully French channel designed for the same audience, but with a different line of programming, based here in Montreal, with the headquarters of the office just a few blocks from here. So I will go into my presentation. Was there a, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so our mandate is to make media accessible to all Canadians. We operate as a not-for-profit. We have our 3 broadcast networks that are available across Canada. All 3 network services are must-carry television services that are available to all Canadian digital TV subscribers. So if you have a digital cable TV subscription, you already have our channel. It's free. You don't have to subscribe to it. It's already on your television. We were created to serve blind and partially sighted Canadians. Many years ago, our organization was originally founded 26 years ago and became a service known as VoicePrint for a number of years. But it has evolved through many names and many different natures since then to become what it is today. So we have that long history behind us for making media accessible in general. As I mentioned, AMI Audio offers magazines, books, local and original programs. It's an audio-only service, although it's available through the television. It is also available through a few different other means. One is satellite radio. It's also available for broadcast over the internet and in a few different formats as well. Now, AMI TV is a unique channel in the world, as will AMI Télé be when it launches on December 16th, because it offers open description 24 hours a day. Now, description is described video, or it's also known as audio description. It's a description of the background elements of a program for those who may not be able to otherwise see them. They can stay with the context of a program, gain all the laughs, know exactly what's going on, what characters are speaking, et cetera, because every single thing is being described back to them. Now, what we've done is we run a number of different programs on our 2 networks. Some are mainstream shows. When AMI Télé launches, one of the first series that it's going to play is the original Star Trek. En français, with full description on every episode. We have a wide variety of programs, both classic, modern day. We have everything from Perry Mason to All in the Family to CSI. We have movies, original programs, things like that. But in this work that we have done, we've established these described video best practices. So best practices to achieve consistency in the delivery of the described video. And we have then worked with our broadcast partners throughout the country, from coast to coast, to have them implement these best practices so that there's a standardization of described video across the country, so that a viewer who is blind or partially sighted may come onto any television service, not just ours, but any service that offers described programming, and gain a similar experience from the description that they receive through that program. Because the description, and I will go into this further in just a moment, it's both a science and an art form. So there's a scientific component behind it where you do certain specific things in order to implement the description, but the description is based upon the experience of the describer. So their unique background, their unique experiences, they will bring that to the description of the elements of the program. So the goal of the best practices is to achieve that consistency while still recognizing that there is a bit of an art form there. Now, AMI Tele, when it launches, will be located at that location. Our main site is at ami.ca. I'll speak a bit about our other initiatives at the end, including the DV Guide and our research panel. What I just mentioned is the industry-adopted described video best practices, in addition to internally developed guidelines of each producer of description. Now, that's the art form specifically. So these are providers who have provided description throughout the country, and there are a number of providers, many of them based here in Quebec, Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, and as well as the Maritimes, but each with a certain level of experience, and each brings a unique aspect to the elements that they delivered. But we have achieved sign-off from all of these providers, including all broadcasters, under the auspice of the Canadian Association of Broadcasters, to implement these industry-adopted best practices in an effort to achieve that consistency. Now, these are the best practices. They are available for download, and they are free to use. They're available for download from ami.ca, the post-production described video best practices. And while they have been developed for broadcast, they are applicable in any sense. If you are developing video content, you can utilize these best practices to achieve a level of consistency in the description you choose to provide if your consumer of your video content requires that description, or if you choose to implement that as an accessibility enhancement. So there's a number of guidelines, each from the technical and the artistic style there. We've also gone into the area of live described video best practices. This is a new field. Across Canada, all broadcasters, and in examining all broadcasters, there's only ever been about 1,000 hours ever produced of live described video best practices. The first was a few years ago, the royal wedding. We did an initiative with the CBC to describe for the first time in history a royal event and provide live description for a partially sighted audience for that event. Some of the other examples that we produce are Blue Jays baseball games. We provide description of those games. Now, you may think, well, that's just similar to radio, if I was listening to a baseball game over the radio. But it's interesting what the describer can pull out as opposed to the simple radio broadcaster of the events that take place within a baseball game. They are pulling out elements that the radio broadcaster may not even have considered as relevant to the viewer. The live described video best practices are similar in nature, but they require a describer who has experience as an actor, experience in front of a microphone, who is a narrator, and who has the knowledge base to describe the event that they are watching and describing simultaneously. We use a former Blue Jays broadcaster, Jim Van Horn, he's our describer for Blue Jays baseball games. And we had to do, for the royal wedding, for example, we had to do auditions of individuals who had that specific knowledge that needed to be provided. Now, we've also looked into another area of best practices, and that is called embedded description. Now, this is where description is heading in the future. Up until now, description has been available through a separate audio stream. If you are viewing it on your television, you have to turn description on and off. But on our channel, it's just always on because it's open description. Now, as TV migrates over to the web, there is a need to still provide that described content over to an internet portal. But it becomes very technically difficult to provide a video, make it accessibly compliant in the player, and one audio stream plus the described audio stream plus the captioning, and make it all work together at the same time. One of the solutions is embedded described video. And this practice, we use this in all the original programming that we produce, is to work with the producer of the show so that description is built into the context of the show itself. The show essentially describes itself. For instance, I would say, I'm sitting at a table with 5 individuals, I'm speaking to a crowd of approximately 30 people, et cetera, and I would describe what I'm doing. It's then not requiring a separate description track. Now, speaking to the point of the migration to the web, we have spent the last year and a half building an accessible media player, which we will be launching on AMI's website on October 29th, in just a few days from now, to provide an accessible broadcast experience. This player is then going to be provided to all other broadcasters for free, to allow them to provide similarly described content through their website as well. To recognize that move of television over to the web that needs to be provided with a structurally accessible experience. Now, we also offer another service on our station called the DV TV Guide. This is all described programming throughout the country, approximately 2,000 shows per week. And that's my contact information. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pearson, I'm impressed. You were exactly right on time.
Thank you very much.
As a reward, I will give you a small gift. I mean, if one day you come to Barcelona, my city,
Yes.
you will realize that there's a big avenue called Pearson Avenue.
Oh, yes, very good.
I think it's on the name of one of your relatives.
Oh,
It was
indeed.
Mr. Pearson, the one who built the first electricity industry in Spain to produce, let's say, lighting and everything. It was a Canadian
interesting.
one. Then maybe
Could be.
you would
could
visit
be.
the city and realize that there's a street on your honor.
Wonderful.
Alors, maintenant c'est le temps pour échanger entre nous. Donc si vous avez des questions à tous les intervenants, ça serait le moment de poser ces questions-là. Si vous ne posez pas de questions, vous risquez que c'est moi qui le fais. Donc, madame, s'il vous plaît.
Excusez-moi. Merci. Merci, bonjour à tous. C'est une question pour Monsieur Pearson concernant la technique qui permet au public handicapé visuel de déclencher l'audiodescription soit à la télévision.
Oh, sorry, just
Il y a un
one
problème?
second.
Ok. Merci.
Okay, go ahead.
Oui, voilà, je reprends. Alors, Monsieur Pearson, j'aurais voulu connaître quelles solutions techniques disposent les personnes handicapées visuelles pour déclencher l'audiodescription des programmes de la télévision et aussi ceux de la télévision sur Internet, s'il vous plaît. Parce que c'est souvent une difficulté. En Europe, c'est pas toujours évident de pouvoir manipuler les dispositifs de déclenchement, justement les commandes électroniques, qui sont essentiellement des dispositifs visuels à menu déroulant. Donc, c'est la plupart du temps complexe.
Okay. Okay. The issue has been very common for a number of years. It is specific, unfortunately, to the type of television you are using, the type of remote control that you're using, who your television service provider is, and the steps it takes to turn on the audio description service. It's been very complicated. Now, In solution to that, now this is specifically for television, I'll get to the web component in a moment, but specifically for television, within Canada, what we have done at AMI is provide a list of steps. So who your service provider is, what remote control you're using, and what your set-top box is. Now the set-top box is for use with digital TV. It allows you to go up to 999 or whatever it is. And so once you provide us with those 3 pieces of information, we can then provide you with the specific steps to turn on audio description. And you'll recall, as I said before, our service always has it on. So it's on automatically, so it eliminates that need to turn it on. But yet there is description on many other channels where you must go through these steps to turn it on. Now, one of the solutions to that, and this is going to be a focus not only of our work in 2015, but also work internationally, and work that has actually been already completed in some areas of Europe, is the creation of an accessible set-top box. Now, what this is a set-top box for your television that is accessible in every way. It has menus that speak back to you. You can change the fonts, you can change the color contrast, you can navigate by voice and simply say, I wish to turn on audio description. It will turn on audio description for you. So these are steps that are coming. It has been achieved before. In the United States, Comcast, who owns NBC and numerous other stations, recently launched a fully accessible set-top box. And it has been fantastic in terms of meeting the need of that audience. Panasonic has also been produced an accessible television that has these features built into it, specifically just for the television. In Europe, there's an organization in the UK named Ocean Blue who produces an accessible set-top box. They've done this in combination with the RNIB to make it available to UK consumers who are purchasing a TV license, and that individual can call up the cable provider and say, I am an individual who requires an accessibility accommodation. Can I have the accessible set-top box as opposed to the regular set-top box? And no problem. So it all works fine and connects regardless of the television that they have. Ocean Blue has launched this service only in the UK, Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand, but not beyond that. But in Canada, this is going to be a focus coming in 2015. It's an issue that was just raised at the CRTC Let's Talk TV hearings in Ottawa that took place about a month ago. So we're going to see a product coming out of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, then maybe I can give you a good news regarding your question, because although I don't look like, or my appearance don't look like, I'm a member of the board of the Japanese Association of Universal Design. And 2 years ago, we gave an award together to Panasonic and Sony, because they have decided to share the technology to make the control of the TV speaking. And this year they have been again awarded because they have already managed to sell a TV that you speak to the remote control.
That's right.
And then the TV reacts. Then I think that what is a very good news is that this kind of improvements is available in the mainstream production, and therefore affordable and not being like an extra charge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, when it moves to the web, it becomes a bit more difficult, and this is an area that's just being explored at this present time in terms of providing description through the web. But as I said, the first step is getting that accessible interface and then ensuring that there's accessible content within it.